Welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, a weekly show helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. Today, episode 310, Heal Your Trauma. And now, Experience of the Soul.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. It is always my honor to bring you the show. And as always, I'm here with my producer.
Good morning, friends. Welcome to Experience of the Soul podcast, episode 310. And
Wow.
Today I know, right? 310. That's a good number. We're talking about Heal Your Trauma today. And super happy to be here with you, Shawn Kilgore, of course, your producer for Experience of the Soul. Today, we want to do a quick shout out to YouTube viewer Donna Bazella, who has commented on a couple of recent episodes. She says, what a fantastic message. Thank you so much. This has helped shed some light onto something that has come up for me that I would like to change in myself. And now it makes so much more sense.
Beautiful.
So thank you, Donna. Yeah, thank you, Donna, for being a YouTube viewer. We sure do appreciate it, and we're honored to support your journey.
Yes, and we love all y'all, your whole family.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I'm so happy to hear that Donna is commenting. Thank you, Donna. I appreciate that very much. Give my love to your family. And interestingly enough, Donna has family in the place I was going to do a shout out for.
Oh, no way.
Toledo, Ohio. Yes. Her daughter lives there and has been giving talks at her local unity. So, Brianne, go get it. Come on, make it happen.
Awesome.
And I know we have more than that family listening in Toledo, but thank you so much for listening and for your support. I love to know our friends around the country. Always feel free to drop us an email, and we love to do shout outs, right, Shawn? We want to mention you.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, please do. If you're joining us on YouTube, make sure you let us know in the comments, and we'll definitely be looking to do some more shout outs like that. So let us know in the comments. Join us on social media, Facebook and Instagram, of course, very active there. And we want to hear from you there also. Yeah. Putting out lots of content to support your journey through the week, as well as Monday mornings. Yes,
and this is Memorial Day in the United States, and we, I'm coming off of a trip, doing a little bit of travel actually today and tomorrow, coming off of a trip from North Carolina where my family goes up into the mountains. And I mentioned last week that it is a time of memorial for my family. And it's interesting what we do is as part of the weekend, I mentioned that we clean off the special gravestones of our family and we kind of maintain it because it's a cemetery that's in the middle of the woods. It's like at the top of a mountain. It's called Oddfellow Cemetery. And then in the evening, we go back and have a little picnic. And then in the evening, we all sit around and do music. And I'll tell you, it is so special to be able to do music with family and to do it in a place. The place I stay was my great grandmother's home. And it is so special to have a connection to that much history, even though the person that owns it now is not family. He is like my family. He's like my son's uncle. And I've known him my whole life. Like he bought the inn in 1976, right? Wow. So he's literally owned it most of my life. So it's been really special to continue that. So, and to have my son know somebody I've known my whole life. Anyway, so this has been
what a special thing that you can still go back there. I mean,
it is. It is. The house was built in the early 1800s. I think it was 1805. Wow. The cool. Original. And yeah. I mean, the originals, her stove is still there in the room. I may even have a picture of it. Her stove that she cooked on that she would feed with wood still sits in the house, and is still usable, believe it or not.
You know what we'll do if you're watching on YouTube? Well, you'll get some video, and we'll cut to some video while we're talking so we can show. Yes. Maybe take a little visual of it.
Oh, yes. And the last time I was there, so my son and I went at Christmas time. We'd never been there at Christmas. And one of his requests was for a road trip with me, which I've talked about. And it was so much fun. I mean, we'll never forget that trip. And it was so great to be in there in the house. Only certain parts of the house were warm. It's a very old school. It's literally heated by those old gas heaters, that are in the wall and stuff like that, or the wood burning. So, anyway, it was super, super special to be there around the holiday. And then when I was leaving, he gave me a chair from the early 1900s. It's called a Morris chair. And I recently had it completely restored, and that's now in my office right there. So,
and we'll be seeing that chair soon. We're going to be doing some messages and some things from that chair. So,
as a matter of fact, my son Josh has already recorded some messages for International Youth of Unity in that chair. We both love it, and awesome. Every part was restored and taken apart, and it's amazing. And it's interesting because of what we're talking about today. Believe it or not, everything we're talking about is about this title, Heal Your Trauma. And I think that is the full title, right, Shawn? 310 heal.
Yep. This is episode 310. Yeah. Heal your trauma. Yeah.
Well, I say this with love, but most of us, our trauma comes from our families. That's normal. Some of us have more trauma than others. And, I've learned over the course of my life that one person's trauma would impact somebody else differently. But we all have trauma that needs to be healed. We all have trauma that needs to be healed. And there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, that shows your development as a human being when you can both be vulnerable and admit that there is trauma, and then be vulnerable and admit that you can't always do it on your own. There's often spiritual work that needs to be done. There's often therapeutic work that needs to be done. And interestingly, in my family, I love my siblings dearly and my loved ones. And there's also some dysfunction there. And the dysfunction that we have is not unlike most families. I'm sure there's always a little bit of, I have a sibling that says there's a little bit of crazy in every family. And that's really true. And by crazy, what we mean is living from the personality, unaware of our nature, unaware of our spiritual self. And as I was talking about restoring this chair, it's so interesting because many things that I've gotten from my family over the years, when I've gotten them, they've been broken. And what I have done is mended them, either myself, I've had them restored. For instance, I have two beautiful needlework pieces that my mom had done when she was 17 years old. Those pictures are now restored. I restored the fabric and cleaned it, and then got them framed, with a beautiful mat and everything. And they are hung in my home over my piano. And every day I get to see those, as a reminder, a reminder of my mother, a reminder of my family, and a reminder of my journey with my mother. And we all have a journey. And my mom and I were very close. We also had issues, the way many kids do with their folks. And she was probably the greatest reason for my healing. And so as I've restored the family pieces, like those, like the chair, like the pictures, I'm restoring myself. And this has been my lifelong work, is to restore myself, to heal my trauma. And now, I wanted to bring this to the show very specifically for all of us to consider, because I see a little bit of a concerning trend. I've even seen comedians talk about it. Now, Shawn and I were talking right before the show about how much I love comedy, and I followed a number, and still do follow a number of comedians. But my concern is that we know more about trauma today than ever. But the issue is that I see the trend, we're so busy naming the trauma and even owning it as if it's our only reality, that we're not moving forward to heal it. We're not moving forward to heal it. And I believe that we are destined to heal. My belief about us as human beings, as spiritual beings, we're meant to grow. How do I know that? Well, I want you to think about this on a physical level. When you're born, you don't stay a baby. You grow, you develop. You can do things at 1 year old that you couldn't do at 1 day old. You can do things at 5 years old you could not do at 1 year old. At 15, at 20, you can't do things that you did at 10 or 12. So if we are growing, as a human, it's only natural to think we're destined to heal and grow also as a spiritual souls and in the mental and emotional realms. My approach to spirituality, I have said in the past, is kind of a psycho-spiritual approach. I hesitate to use that word psycho because that sounds crazy, but that's like a shortened psycho-spiritual approach, meaning that we have to both do the work in the emotional nature, in the mental area, the area of the mind, our thought forms that we take on as our only reality. And then we have to work our spiritual journey, our faith journey, our soul journey with that. Because I'm going to say something I rarely say, which I believe is important on this. I also see our whole culture being so concerned about what psychologists say, to the point that psychology is becoming a god. That science, that study of which originally that word psychology actually means a study of the soul. Psyche means soul. But psychology today mostly is absent of the soul. It's all about the mind, and it's all about the trauma. What is your trauma? And if we're so focused on what the trauma is and not healing the trauma, then we get very, very stuck. And we can sit in therapy for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and we just keep reliving the trauma rather than seeking to heal the trauma. So my journey has been about seeking to heal the trauma. I don't want to be stuck in the things, the thoughts, the behaviors of the past. I don't want to be stuck there. And I'll tell you, friends, healing your trauma is a lot of work. But the truth is, it's worth it. But think about it. Have you ever been in a work setting or in a meeting and somebody say, well, I can't go to that. I can't go to that meeting. No, I can't go to that meeting with all those people. I have anxiety. And somebody says, oh, you have anxiety. Okay. So do you see how we have then attached to this issue and said, I cannot move forward because of this. But if we know we have anxiety, if we know we have, what's the social phobia called, Shawn? Is it called agoraphobia?
I think it is agoraphobia.
Agoraphobia. I was spacing on it right now. But if we know that's a thing, and like our work requires us to be in a setting with other people, that's that on the soul journey. See, as I'm looking through the spiritual lens, through the soul lens, to fully develop, we need to go about healing that. Was that right, Shawn? Were you going to correct me on that?
Nope, you were correct. Agoraphobia.
Okay, it was agoraphobia. Okay, that's what.
Yeah.
I always get it mixed up with the other one. That's when you're scared of spiders.
Arachnophobia. Which is also, a great, I believe, 80s movie.
I know, exactly. That's what starts to come in my mind. I have to go, no, it's agoraphobia.
Yeah, agoraphobia involves fearing and avoiding places or situations that might cause panic or feelings of being, yeah.
No, and as I'm saying this, please know, friends, I'm not making fun of anxiety.
Of course.
Not at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, people very near and dear to me have struggled with anxiety, which is why I know, you can heal. So I'm not laughing at it at all. Shawn and I were joking about my misremembering. So please don't think I would ever joke about mental health. And that said, I want you to think about that idea of mental health. If we're moving toward mental health, that word health, the root word is what? To heal. So what we talk about now is trauma in a way where we're owning it. And what I heard this comedian say, and I'm sorry, I actually cannot remember his name, but I thought it was great. I saw it, I don't know, in the last, year and a half or so. He was saying that the problem with this generation, which he's a part of, he's a millennial. He said the problem with my generation is we all know what our trauma is and we expect you to work around it. And in other words, I want you to take responsibility for my issues. Now, that said, am I saying that we should be uncompassionate or non-compassionate? Of course not. I'm not saying we push people into situations where they're not comfortable. But what I'm saying is, wouldn't it be healthier to live in a world where we were seeking to heal that instead of expecting everybody to work around it? For instance, part of my history is being around people that are not trustworthy. People that were not trustworthy with their boundaries and with their certain behaviors. They were addictive behaviors. Some were drug addicts. Some were alcoholics. Some were sex addicts. So what I have had to do, because here's what I know. There are sex addicts and alcoholics and drug addicts in the world today. But you know what? They are not in my life. Because in my healing, that is a boundary I have set. It's not, the healing piece for me is realizing I don't need to be around it. I don't have to be around it, and I don't have to put up with it. But if I see someone drinking, I don't run screaming from the room. I know how to deal with it. I know how to deal with what comes up in myself. If there's a feeling of helplessness because I see somebody participating in a behavior I don't want to be a part of, then I work with that in myself, or I reach out to a therapist or spiritual guide to help me get back to my center. But I don't expect everyone around me to not do what it is they're doing. I take care of myself. And yes, sometimes we have to remove ourselves from the situation. But also part of the healing can be, you know what? Look at what they're doing over there. Isn't that interesting? But it's not, I don't leave the situation because I quote unquote can't handle it. I leave it because this is an energy I choose not to be around. And if I haven't healed my trauma, I'm running because I'm afraid. So there are different levels of healing on all of this. I hope this is making sense, what I'm saying. I was at a church one time. This is in the early days of Unity, and I was, we were in a pub, and I saw a minister really drinking more than I imagined they would. And, I sat and talked to him the whole time. And I was like, you know what? Now that this is getting to a point that this feels unhealthy for me, I am going to excuse myself. But I didn't demonize him. I didn't make him wrong. I didn't say, you should stop this so I feel better. I can't be around, I took care of myself. That's part of healing. So, and I'm not going around saying, I'm an abuse survivor. I'm an abuse survivor. I'm an abuse survivor. And expect you to change. I have to take care of myself. That said, I want us to live in a supportive environment where, we're not crossing each other's boundaries and doing things like that. But I think what we're doing is we walk around saying, I'm dyslexic. I'm anxious. I have depression. I have anxiety. I have anxiety and depression. And that is the issue I want to lift up.
I believe I found the comedian that you're talking about, Zoltan Kaszas. Kaszas. It's Kasszas.
I think that is him. Yeah.
Yeah. So he says, if I did have to pick on the thing about my generation, I think our biggest issue is that we're too self-aware. We know exactly what's wrong with us and why. And I don't know, he says, I don't know if that's healthy or not, because everyone I know my age knows exactly what's wrong with them, but no one seems to be doing anything, or no one seems to be getting any better, he says. He says, people my age are like, I have anxiety. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing about that? And they say, nothing. I'm telling you, so you work around it.
Exactly. Thank you for finding that. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
'cause
I'll
I
put it in
wanted to
those
get-
show notes too.
Please do, because
Yeah.
I wanted to give him the credit. And he is so funny.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And what, of course, what we want to get to, the reason we're saying not to own it, like he's saying, yes, you figure it out and step around to me, because I have to live in this protective bubble. But as we start to heal, what happens is we start to have a sense of clarity. And when we're expecting everybody else to work around our issue, we're really living in a false reality. We really are. And we're expecting the world to bend to what our needs are. And there's a lot of discussions in education now. Some people say, well, we're babying kids by giving them more times on tests and things like that, or every other kid has an issue or an allergy. Well, the thing is, some kids do have issues that need to be worked around, but the issue is, as we age and develop, the idea is to grow and heal. And so the work for you to do, and for me to do, both of us to do on the journey, is to sense and discern, well, what is mine to do now? What is my next step in healing my trauma? And friends, I continue to heal as well. I had a situation recently where I had some boundaries crossed, and I said, you know what? Somebody can only cross my boundaries if I am in boundary failure. So there's no one to blame. I have to look at myself and say, where was I in boundary failure? And I could kind of trace it back in my journey to how I kind of got to those what I call leaky boundaries. And it was like, you know what? I can shore that up though. I'm going to heal this and correct this. And as I correct this moving forward, I will feel safer and more at peace. I just know that. I know that. I've talked several times, about my jujitsu journey, and I spoke of that last show as well. It's been really interesting how this has been so healing for me. It was really interesting too, because at the time I was working with a therapist, and I didn't think she was overly supportive of me doing the jujitsu, which made me want to do it even more. and because I was so guided to it. And I can't tell you what a sense of joy and peace that has been for me, and healing, because of some of the people I was around growing up and their lack of boundaries. What's so interesting about jujitsu is everybody gets a boundary, and everybody gets to have power in their relationships. When you're rolling, when you're drilling, when you're in a class. For instance, if you are not comfortable for whatever reason rolling with somebody, you don't have to have an explanation for that. You do what you need to do for you. That said, they will help you heal if you hit something that's uncomfortable. They'll help you through it and say, would you like to try this? Would you like to try that? Or how are you feeling about this? There is a next step to go. So my hope is that you see healing as I do, which is as a lifelong pursuit. It's not like I just heal this and then I'm done. I had a friend several years ago say, well, I don't need to go to therapy. I've healed my trauma. And that was a danger sign to me. We're never totally healed. That said, we are always moving into more healing. I don't know a single person that could say, "Oh yeah, I did a year of therapy. I'm totally healed." But we're healing more and more. What we don't want to do is stay stuck in the past. Healing is a lifelong pursuit, my friends. So the purpose, obviously, of healing is that life gets easier. Life has more clarity. And as we establish more healing patterns, more healing thought forms in our life, then life is more free. And, sometimes the healing can be on the physical level, but I can tell you it always starts on the soul level. And that was what our last show was about, the thing that matters most. Even today, as I was preparing breakfast. It was really interesting because I love to cook, and I cooked my son a beautiful breakfast before school. I knew he had a big day today, and I have a very long work day as well, and I wanted to start out with good food. And part of my healing is honoring my body through good food. It's like such a simple thing. But part of healing my trauma is not saying, well, I don't need anything and eating crap all day. Part of my healing my trauma is honoring my body and its needs. So see, if I had not done enough healing work to honor my body and what it needs, then I would be eating junk food. I would be gaining weight. I would be lethargic from the sugar highs and crash after. Instead, I made a beautiful breakfast with organic ingredients. Right now, there's a chicken in there. I'm making soup. I'm drinking water with lemon juice, which is great for a liver cleanse. I mean, this is all a part of how you heal and begin to look through a lens of clarity instead of this kind of distorted lens that we tend to look through when we haven't moved towards healing. So my hope for you, friend, is that you are joining me in this lifelong pursuit of healing, and that you're not staying stuck in the past of your trauma, because everyone has trauma. Everyone. And if we expect the world to step around it, number one, we're going to be disappointed, because no one can do that successfully. Number two, as you begin to take responsibility for your journey, you're going to feel empowered. You're not going to feel stuck in the bonds of the past. And that even when things come up that need healing, you can deal with them rather than running in fear and saying, why does nobody get my trauma? Why are people doing this to me? We deal with it. We deal with it head on. We deal with it with a great deal of faith and courage and clarity and purpose. And I believe for me personally, it is my desire to heal that has given me a great sense of purpose and passion for life in general, that I seek to live a healed life. You know, I said several shows ago this statement from Socrates: an unexamined life is not worth living. And friends, this is true. If we're stuck in our trauma, we're not doing anything to heal. I can tell you, I know from experience, life is no fun. We think the world is against us. We feel very misunderstood, when in fact, the work is to be done by us to understand ourselves. So my hope for you is that you will continue on this journey. I'm sure you're on it if you're listening to the show. And my hope for you is that you deepen it in some way. Like, just work with spirit on, what is my next step in my healing journey? How am I to heal? Is it to join a recovery group? Is it to find a deeper recovery group? Is it to, work with somebody one-on-one? Is it therapeutic? Is it spiritual? Is it all the above? Do I need a retreat to go deeper? Think about this. Pray about this. What is my next step to heal my trauma? And this is the work I'm always doing. For instance, right now, I'm working with a therapist who works largely with the archetypal, and she helps me see patterns I would not see on my own. So this is a way I'm healing. So friends, as your spiritual supporter, perhaps I'm a guide for you. Perhaps I'm a spiritual friend. However you view it, that's wonderful. I'm still doing my healing work. This is my hope for you, that you will love yourself enough to move your journey forward through seeking to live a healed life. And as always, our goal in these shows is to help you grow, prosper, and evolve, my friends. So I hope this is the work that you are doing today, and this is my prayer for you. So I thank you for joining us as always. Heal your trauma, my friend. Don't attach to it. Move forward on the journey, knowing that you are worth it and you are worthy to grow, prosper, and evolve. So blessings on the journey, dear friend, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. This podcast is made possible because of listeners and viewers just like you. If you would like to support the podcast with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head on over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Experience of the Soul podcast is copyright 2024 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved, and is produced by Shawn Kilgore.
A production of the Soul Works Group, Incorporated.